Let's talk waiver wire pitchers, part one. And these are mostly names in shallower leagues that could be out there. Michael Wacha, another quality start. This one up against the Cardinals, 7 innings, 2 runs with 6 strikeouts. He had 15 whiffs on 92 pitches. Gavin Williams, another solid start for him, this time at the Twins, 6 innings, 1 run with 3 strikeouts. Jeffrey Springs had his best start yet, up against the Orioles, 5 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 83 pitches. And Tobias Myers was awesome up against the Reds. He went 7 1/3 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts. He had 12 whiffs on 99 pitches. And Scott, how would you rank that group of 4? Tobias Myers, Jeffrey Springs, Gavin Williams, and Michael Wacha.
I think Springs is the clear number 1.
Mm-hmm.
He finally had the start we stashed him for, and it was really his changeup. Like Garrett Cole's slider came back, we finally got Jeffrey Springs' changeup in this one. That is his wipeout pitch. Hitters had gone 7 for 14 against it in his first 2 starts, but in this one, it got 10 whiffs on 16 throws, I believe it was. Or am I mixing up my numbers? 10 whiffs on 15 swings. So, yeah, it had a 67% whiff rate. Clearly back to form. His fastball was still down about 1 mile per hour and a half from last year, so he hasn't quite regained that velocity, but he showed in this start against the Orioles of all lineups that he can do a lot of damage just with that changeup. So I'm very encouraged by that for Springs. He's clearly number 1. Number 2, I'll say Michael Wacha for reliability reasons. Then I prefer the upside of Gavin Williams to Tobias Myers, though I'm,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know you like Myers.
I do.
I think one thing that really hurts, he's got the Dodgers this week. And so there are 6 weeks left in the season, 7 weeks left in the fantasy season. Yeah. You can't use the guy for the next one. That really does have to play into your thought process when you're making your waiver wire ads now.
Yeah.
I guess Tobias Myers, if we say, do I like him relative to the 2.79 ERA and 108 whip he has? No, I don't feel like he's that good, but I don't think anybody is assessing Tobias Myers like he has a 2.79 ERA and 108 whip. And I think he's a legitimate asset in fantasy, but I would still give Gavin Williams the edge over him.
Would you guys drop Crochet or Birdsong for any of those names?
I would drop them for all of those names.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, if, like I said, if you're not using someone right now, like if you're in a head-to-head points league and you don't have to use someone this week and you're like not locked into a playoff spot, they're droppable. And I don't think you can use Garrett Crochet or Hayden Birdsong right now. And I'd feel better about starting any of these guys in their next starts. Myers against the Dodgers, maybe not, but
yeah.
I still think I would go for those moves, yes.
The only one that's a slam dunk is Springs. I think Birdsong and Crochet are about as rosterable as Wacha, Williams, and Myers. So it just depends. Do you want to hold out for upside, or do you need some kind of usefulness now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, waiver wire pitchers part 2. JP Sears, a quality start at the Blue Jays, 7 innings, 3 runs with 4 strikeouts. Jose Soriano, also a quality start at the Nationals, 6 innings, 1 run with 7 strikeouts. Simeon Woods Richardson, a strong start up against the Guardians, 7 innings, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts. And Ryan Nelson, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but he continues to pitch well. This time he did it against the Phillies, who I know they've been slumping, but they're still a really good lineup. 7 1/3 innings, 2 runs allowed, 9 strikeouts there. Chris, how would you rank Ryan Nelson, Simeon Woods Richardson, Jose Soriano, and JP Sears?
I think Soriano is clear number 1 for me. I think the skill set is stronger there. Ground ball rate. He's one of those guys where, like, in some ways, he's like a mirror image of Framber Valdez, mostly just because he's a righty and Framber Valdez is a lefty, but also just because elite ground ball pitcher who has one really, really good swing and miss pitch. And Soriano hasn't figured out a way to lean on that curveball in the same way that Framber Valdez certainly is lately. But even when he doesn't, I think the results are going to be good enough, right? Like you see the 381 FIP, it's a little higher than the 336 ERA, but I think reasonable to expect that moving forward. After that, I think it probably just depends on what the next matchup is for all of these guys. Ryan Nelson gets the Rockies in Arizona, so I'd probably go with him. And I saw some good discussions about Ryan Nelson and the way he's changed his approach over his past 6 starts, where he's throwing his four-seamer up in the zone a lot more consistently. He's throwing it harder as well. I think the overall profile is still pretty middling, right? Like, he has 5 or 6 pitches. None of them have a whiff rate over 20.5%.
Yeah.
So I think there's not a ton to love there, and it's probably just a streamer in the long run. But I think that's also the same with Sears and Woods Richardson. I think Soriano is probably the only one who's north of a streamer.
I will point out, I've noticed this with Ryan Nelson, and it kind of piggybacks what you said about the fastball. 5 of his last 7 starts have been good. In the 5 that were good, he threw his fastball more than 60% of the time. So when he really leans on that fastball, which is his only good pitch, it seems like, of the 5 he has, things seem to go well for Ryan Nelson. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's been going well so far. And I just want to throw in for Jose Soriano, who I'm glad is finally getting some attention here. Last 5 starts, 4 of them are quality starts with 1 earned run or fewer. So he's been, I don't know that he's gotten a lot of wins during that stretch, but he's been pitching really reliably.
Waiver wire pitchers part 3. Mitchell Parker has turned in 3 solid starts in a row after a rough stretch. He was up against the Angels, 6 1/3, 2 unearned runs with 5 strikeouts. Cody Bradford, that's right, Chris, your Cody Bradford pitched well at the Yankees. 5 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts with 11 whiffs on 92 pitches. Edward Cabrera had a great start up against the Padres, 7 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts. And Yariel Rodriguez had a solid start up against Oakland, 5 2/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts here. We're getting a little bit into deeper leagues here, but Scott, any interest in those names? Mitchell Parker, Bradford, Cabrera, and Rodriguez.
Give it to Chris, because this sounds like all guys he's fond of.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
I don't think any of these guys are must roster. I think there might even be one guy in the next group, maybe 2, who I like more than any of them. But like Yariel Rodriguez, I'm excited to draft him as a sleeper next year, but I just don't think the workload is going to be there. Has he gone 6 innings at all in any start this season?
Actually, he did a couple starts in a row, I want to say.
But he's like, I think 85 pitches is about as many as he's thrown in any given start. So like, he has to be super efficient. It's kind of similar to Garrett Crochet. I do think, like, outside of the one disaster start that got him sent down before the trade deadline, Rodriguez has been very good since coming back. So I think he's a very talented pitcher. It's just, I think his utility is fairly limited against the wrong matchups.
So it's a 3.38 ERA and 8 starts since returning, but the first one was really awful. So if we throw that out,
well, yeah, and he had the one where he only went like 2/3 of an inning against Baltimore.
2.43 ERA and 7 starts for Yariel Rodriguez. Back-to-back 6 inning starts at the start of July, but yeah, his season high is 85 pitches, like you said.
I think he's the most interesting of this group. Like Mitchell Parker's got the Phillies in his next start. There's no way I can go with him. Would rather not start Cody Bradford against the Twins. So
he's your guy, Chris. What are you doing?
I think Rodriguez is fine. Probably the most immediately useful and has some long-term appeal.
And the last group includes Martin Perez, who had a strong start at the Marlins, 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Osvaldo Bido, who pitches for Oakland. He was at the Blue Jays this weekend, 6 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. Nick Martinez threw a gem at the Brewers, 7 shutout innings, just 1 hit with 7 strikeouts. He's improved his control dramatically this year. I don't really know how to explain it, but I think that's been a big key for Nick Martinez. And Albert Suarez pitched well at Tampa Bay on Sunday, 6 2/3 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. Again, Scott, kind of deep league names here, but anyone stand out between Suarez, Martinez, Bido, and Martin Perez?
I don't think I really want to roster any of them if I can avoid it, but I do have interesting observations on some of them. Martin Perez, for the second straight start since joining the Padres, threw more changeups and curveballs. and had another good outing doing that. So I don't know, maybe something could come from that for Martin Perez. Not ready to buy in yet. You mentioned Nick Martinez dramatically improved control. You look at the 3.16 ERA and think, well, that's obviously too good to be true, but he has a 2.99 FIP and a 2.90 xERA. Not like he's missing a ton of bats, so I remain skeptical, but it's noteworthy. And then Albert Suarez, I'm reluctant to buy into him again because that ended so poorly the first time around. But two really good starts in a row after joining the rotation, and anybody who can provide decent innings with the Orioles lineup backing him is got to be of some interest in fantasy.